these bolts here, they're 4 bolts are loosely fitted on, so I'm just going to use a drill to get them out. But if this is your first time taking out the pan bolts, I'd probably just remove them without the drill, because otherwise you won't know how tight they were on. And knowing how tight they were on beforehand is very good. There's your grab body. I didn't take that off because I kind of wanted to take it off when the transmission's on the bench. And here's your pan. Some grit in here, and there's definitely a lot of stuff on that magnet. Probably a lot of friction material. All right, take out the snap ring so we can remove the servos. All right, so I'm going to be moving on to the tail shaft area. There's, I believe, 5 bolts all around the tail shaft extension housing, and there is a big nut on the ball and trunnion flange. It's a 1 1/8. It's that huge one right there. That's 1 1/8. You'll probably need an impact to get that off, because I tried it with hand tools and it is not budging. And this thing, this flange right here, rotates on its own accord, so you need to hold that down also while you're impacting it off. All right, so I got that 1 1/8 nut off. Be warned, there's probably more ATF that's going to come pouring out. And there we go. There's our ATF that we were looking for, and there's that flange end washer. So I believe the next thing we need to do is remove the 6 9/16 bolts that's on the extension tail housing, and after that we can remove the transmission mount right there and undo 2 bolts. I believe those are maybe 5/8, maybe 9/16, to gain access to the what was it called? It's like a snap ring, but it had a specific name. I'll probably say it again once it pops into my mind. Okay, so I kind of found out that removing the tail shaft extension housings are kind of impossible right now, because I need to turn this transmission around. So for that to happen without damaging anything else, I think I'm going to need to remove the valve body. There are 10 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Easy to keep track of. I wouldn't disassemble any of the bolts that's up here, or the little Phillips screw heads that's up here. That's for your valve body, keeping each separate plates together. So regrettably, the rebuild book that I was reading doesn't exactly specify on what else to remove on these pre-67 transmissions. And I noticed that once you remove these 6 valve body bolts that's hanging in, you'll need to remove the kickdown lever that's right here, and that's held in with a 7/16 nut right here. Also, do bear in mind when you remove the kickdown lever, the valve body may fall out if it's not supported from the outside, because the valve body back under over here, that's under these 4 bolts over here, there's an accumulator spring, and it's quite under quite a lot of tension. And there you have it. Once the valve body is out of the way, you can gain a lot of real estate and see what the gear chain is like. I do want to remove the low reverse band that's back here, adjusting screw. I believe that's 5/16. And this is a solid band from the looks of it. That's pretty cool. I believe 67 and later transmissions, they use a flex band. It's a little bit weaker, I think. Solid bands, I don't think nobody really makes these. So if this is in good condition, I might reuse that. Well, you have the accumulator spring right there. And here's your, I believe that's your front servo, and this is your rear servo. Depending on which one the manual states is, well, front and rear. So getting a 11/16 socket in here is almost impossible because it's very cramped in here. So you might as well use a 16 millimeter wrench works. The low reverse band can be removed, and do take caution. Do not bump the sprag in any way or the one-way roller clutch. This is the thing that people hear nightmares about, of it exploding and sending shrapnel through the floorboards and putting you in the hospital. So this should rotate counterclockwise or clockwise, whichever it was, and then this band should let go. So I moved on to removing the snap ring on the, I believe this is the rear servo, and this snap ring is channeled in here. So I'm going to keep them over there, just keep them consolidated with the other servo because you don't want to mix up both parts. And when you remove that spring, you can get the piston out. I did forget to mention that that is spring loaded. I did forget to mention that. When you do remove the accumulator spring from the valve body side, there's going to be this other piston here. Seems to be cast in construction, so you might be able to upgrade there to some billet one, a little bit lighter weight. So I did forget to mention, when you remove the transmission mount that's back here, under this you'll have a seal, and under that seal you have the circlet that you need to remove with. You need the circlip pliers, and off the mount comes, and surprise, surprise, it does not have a circlip that you need to remove back here. So I may have bought the circlip pliers for pretty much nothing at this point, but I may have a use for it, especially with the clips up here on the servos. Once you remove the 6 tail shaft or extension tail shaft housing bolts, you're going to have one that's going right through the parking sprag right here, and from up here toward the bottom of the tail shaft housing. So usually when you remove the tail shaft, you're able to pull it out without pulling out the whole output shaft. So this is quite a bit of a different thing, especially with those comparing with the 67 transmissions where the output shaft you just slide out. This one, the governor and the parking sprag and the entirety of the output shaft came with it, so hey ho. Next, if you're to remove the rear support, you'll have to remove 5 bolts all around on the circumference here, and these are 1/2 inch. The thing we're going to be disassembling is the Bellevue spring and the clutches in the rear clutch drum. There you go. One edge is out, so you can just kind of pull it out slowly. Thankfully this is a steel snap ring. I believe as 72, 71 A727s, they have plastic. Okay, I'm just going to take this out as a set. Alright, so let's see what's in here. So you have single pressure plate. That looks like clutches, but you see that? It's got a circular looking pattern to it. That's a very strange design for a clutch. Next would be a steel. And you have a steel. So far these steels look fine, but just minor scratches really. Next would be clutch. Once again, this clutch is still showing some life. Very good. So most of the wear is in the front clutches. Another snap ring here to hold the Bellevue spring in. And there's a small cut because this There's some cut in the footage because the spring was a pain in the ass to come out. But here's your Bellevue spring. If you have a Bellevue spring, there's like, I think one in the 67 or like 70s. They have a stronger Bellevue spring. You might want to use those. This one, you notice how it has those distinctive corners on this? The stronger one doesn't. It has more smoother corners. Those are stronger. You should run those. So this right here is a piston also. That can be removed. Angled pliers again. I'm going to try to grab onto the edge of this piston and try to yank it out. Oh, well, that wasn't much tension at all. We can probably guess that the seal is probably not doing its thing. We have the seal. So there's a seal in here, if you can see that. And there's a seal out here. This is beveled.